Hi there, smart drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you today about stall parking, sometimes called bay parking. Essentially what you got to do is you got to put a vehicle into a parking space in a parking lot, or it's called a car park in Australia or in the UK and other places. I had a comment from Ganti Sunita and Salima Mohand Osad. Both of those smart drivers wanted me to go over the procedures for reverse stall parking for the purposes of a road test. And actually I want to apologize for Salima. She was trying to get me to do this earlier, and unfortunately I was having a brain cramp and didn't understand perpendicular parking, which is essentially what this is stall parking. So my apologies to Salima. Now, first thing you got to do before you start reverse stall parking for the purposes of a road test, practice backing up, because this is essentially backing up. And if you're not comfortable with backing up and your reversing skills are not high, then you're going to have a great deal of difficulty stall parking a vehicle. So go out and do reverse parking, straight line reverse parking, and then reversing around corners, and finally reverse figure eights. Once you get comfortable with all of that, then I would suggest that you go out and start practicing stall parking. Actually, stall parking is fairly straightforward after you have some practice backing up and get comfortable with how the primary controls react for the purposes of backing up a vehicle. And the other thing that I would suggest, a lot of driver education focuses on getting the vehicle between the lines, and unfortunately what happens with students is that they start focusing on the lines and they start looking down at the ground. You don't want to be looking down at the ground. You want to have your vision up. So the first tip that I'll give you for reverse stall parking, always try and park off another vehicle. If you can park off another vehicle, your vision is going to stay up, and therefore you're going to be looking in the places that you need to be looking as opposed to down on the ground, because that just draws your vision down and doesn't allow you to take in the 360-degree scan that you need to do for the purposes of stall parking. Two other points that I'll make about reverse stall parking. If you feel obsessed about backing into the stall and getting between the lines and actually looking at the lines, what I would suggest, go out and purchase those small stick-on convex mirrors, and those small convex mirrors will allow you to be able to see the lines without actually looking down and getting your vision drawn down to the ground. And the other point that I'll make about reverse stall parking, when you get the vehicle what you feel is more or less straight into the space, look forward, look out the front windshield to determine if the vehicle is in fact straight, because that will help you to line up. It's a lot easier to look forward than it is to look back and determine whether the vehicle is in 90 degrees and straight into the space. So those are two tips that you can use in order to get the vehicle into the stall if you don't have another vehicle to park off. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go out to the parking lot, going to go over how to do that, show you how to do that, and we're going to do a little bit more work here in the studio, and I'll go over with you on the whiteboard the procedures for reverse stall parking, which is a required technique for the purposes of a road test. Stick around, we'll be right back with that information. Hi there, smart drivers. Welcome back. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you today about reverse stall parking for the purposes of a road test. It is one of the slow speed maneuvers that you will almost always be required to do for the purposes of a road test. And at many licensing centers, they're going to have designated parking. When you go into the licensing center in preparation for doing your road test, make sure you back into the space. If you go with a driving school, the driving instructor will make you back into the space prior to starting your road test. If you go by yourself, know that you need to back in. You're just too nervous at the beginning of the road test, so make sure you back into the space. That way you've had a little bit of practice, and it helps to relieve the stress of getting and going on your road test. That way when you depart for your road test, you simply drive out of the space and commence your road test. When you come back from your road test and you've calmed down a little bit, you have a little bit of a rapport with the driving examiner, then you're going to back into the space, and the examiner will get you to do that in almost all situations. Regardless of where you are in the world, you're going to have to back into that space. It's a required maneuver on a road test. Now, the first thing I will say, as I said in the introduction, make sure that you practice reversing before you actually attempt stall parking. Get comfortable with backing the vehicle up and the response of the primary controls, particularly the steering in reverse, because it's quite a bit different than it is when you're driving forward. It feels a little bit weird. And as well, when you're reversing, you're looking out the back window and you've got one hand on the passenger seat and the other hand is on the wheel, so you're turning the wheel with one hand, which makes it a little different as well. So what I suggest in terms of practicing backing up, straight line backing, when you get comfortable with straight line backing, then start backing around corners. When you get comfortable backing around corners, go out and get a couple of pylons in a parking lot or whatnot and do reverse figure eights. When you're comfortable with all of that, straight line backing, backing around corners and reverse figure eights, then you can start stall parking. And again, as I said in the introduction, you want to try and park off another vehicle. That is the ideal, because if you have another vehicle, that vehicle is going to be your landmark, and you're not going to be looking down at the ground trying to find the pavement markings in the parking lot, because if you're looking down, your vision isn't in the right place for detecting other obstacles and hazards around the parking space where you might be parking. So you want to try and keep your vision up, and if you can park off another vehicle, that's what you want to do. If you're going to drive into the space, you simply want to drive down the center of the lane here as best you can. Of course, there's other vehicles and those types of things you might have to move over. But essentially, if this is the space you want to park into, when your vehicle is here and you are here, and again, it's the same for setting up for straight line backing or angle backing. When you're at the halfway point of the space preceding the space that you want to move into, turn the steering wheels and drive into the space. And again, look where the reference points are, other vehicles, those types of things, whether there's trees and those types of things down here, but simply look forward and drive into the space. And again, always go slowly, because the slower you go, the sharper the vehicle turns, and you have more control of the primary controls and more time to react. If you go tearing into the parking lot, you're not going to have as much time to react and could risk a collision. And again, on your road test, make sure you look, do your 360-degree scan before you back up into the space. That is critical, because for the slow speed maneuver, the examiner is looking that you are observing and looking for other pedestrians and other hazards and obstructions that you could potentially strike. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go out to the vehicle and we're going to show you how to do this in the vehicle. So there's three ways to do a reverse stall park. One is a straight line back. And essentially for straight line back and angle, you position the vehicle on an angle when you set up to back into the space. It's essentially the same setup. So when you're here and you and the vehicle are at the halfway point of the parking space immediately preceding the space into which you park, that's when you turn your wheels all the way to the right for straight line backing. Now, as well for straight line backing, if you're in a car park or a parking lot, know that this space here is going to be in line with that space in most cases. Not all cases, but in most cases. And again, if you're going to the licensing center and you know where you're going to take your road test, scope that out. Go in on the weekend, check out the parking spaces and know where you're going to park. Now, the other point about this is that obstacles and landmarks are one and the same thing for the most part. People are obstacles. You can't really use them as landmarks because, you know, they're pretty hard to keep them stationary so that they can stay in one place. So scanning and observation are also really important for the purposes of backing up, and make sure that you do your 360-degree scans and do that almost every vehicle length, because as we know, parking lots are dynamic, they're busy, there's a lot of stuff going on. And as I said, landmarks and things that you could potentially strike are one and the same thing. So oftentimes you want to try and park off another vehicle, because that will keep your eyesight up. If you're looking down at the lines on the pavement, it's going to draw your sight down, and you don't want your sight down, you want your sight up. So if you can park off another vehicle, that's ideal. As well, if there's a fence or a tree or something back here, take note of that. If there's a vehicle in this space here, take note of whether that vehicle is far ahead in your space, because then you can't back into the space as far. Those types of things. So when you pull up here in preparation to set up to back into the space, take note of the landmarks. Take note if there's a vehicle in this space here, is that a green vehicle? Is it a red vehicle? Is it a black vehicle? All of that will help you as you're backing into the space, because you can position your vehicle in relation to these other vehicles. And essentially that's what you're doing. You're trying to position your vehicle in relation to other fixed objects and other vehicles. So take note of what's around you and look for landmarks as you're coming into your space. So the first one, straight line backing. Line yourself up as the driver at the halfway point of the space immediately preceding the parking space you want to pull into. Pull around to the right, line yourself up with this space. if it in fact is in line with this space, and simply back straight up. You're going to put your right hand on the back of the passenger seat, steer with your left hand, and look out the back window. For those of you on the other side of the road in the UK and in Australia, you're going to put your right hand on the steering wheel and your left hand on the back of the passenger seat and look out the rear window to back up. Back into the space. And again, if there's a vehicle here, you want to line the front of the vehicles up with this. For you, your reference point is going to be the mirrors. If there's a vehicle in this space, you want to line the two mirrors up, and that way you know that you're back into the space far enough. If you're unsure, it's better to be out of the space a little bit than back up too far and strike whatever's behind you. Usually at these licensing centers, they have concrete barriers there, so make sure that you don't back into the concrete barrier. So that's a straight line back into the reverse stall park. The next one is an angle park. So you come up here, it's the same setup. So you as the driver at the halfway point of the space preceding the space into which you want to park, when you pause or stop here, pick a 45-degree angle, and it's going to be approximately off the corner of the front corner of the hood is going to be your 45-degree angle. You pull up and you line up the front of your vehicle with that mark. So here it's the corner of this parking stall here. And you line your vehicle up approximately here. The back corner comes here, and then you back into the space. So that's how you set up your vehicle for an angle backup. The last setup for reverse stall park is to do a perpendicular park. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to pull up here and you're going to go 2 spaces past. So here there would be another space here. You drive up, so your vehicle is positioned here. That vehicle is probably a little big, but essentially what you want is the front of your vehicle here. You want to be at the halfway point, 2 spaces past the space you're going to park into. You pull up, so you as the driver are here, 2 spaces at the center point past the one you want to park into. Put your vehicle in reverse so the reverse lights come on. Put your left signal on here. Turn the steering wheel all the way to the left, which is 1.5 turns on most passenger vehicles. Again, just check that out. When you start driving, just when you're in the parking lot or you're sitting somewhere stationary, turn the steering wheel all the way to left or all the way to the right and make sure that it is in fact 1.5, because it might be between 1.5 and 2 turns. But if you know how far the steering wheel goes, 1.5 turns all the way to here. When you get the vehicle at approximately this position here, look forward out the front windshield. That way you'll have a really good reference point of whether the vehicle is straight or not. When your vehicle is almost straight, bring the wheels back to center. So it's going to be 1.5 revolutions on the steering wheel to bring it back to the right, and then simply back up. And again, look out the back window. If there's a vehicle beside you, that's the best, because you can use that vehicle beside you as a reference point and simply line up the mirrors or the front of the vehicles and then stop. When you're done parking, you secure the vehicle by applying the parking brake, putting it in park. Most of you are going to be driving an automatic. If it's not an automatic, put it into first gear, shut the vehicle off, and tell the examiner that you're finished and the vehicle has been parked. Now, a couple little techniques. If you really want to make sure that it's in between the 2 lines, go and get yourself those little convex mirrors. They're fairly inexpensive. I'll put a link down here to Amazon for the convex mirrors, and you can put those on your mirrors, and those will show you the lines on the pavement markings down on the bitumen or the pavement down there, and it will help you get in between the lines. But like I said, most of the time if there's another vehicle there, that you want to park beside that other vehicle. That is the ideal, because that way your vision is up and it's not directed down at the ground, because we don't want to be looking at the ground when we're driving vehicles. That's ideal. So this is the theory behind perpendicular parking, and what we're going to do today, we're going to go out and show you how to do that. So you come into the space and you don't actually need the lines on the road to be perfect, but what you need to do is you need to park off the other vehicle. So we're coming up to the space here and we're looking at the landmarks. The Audi at the back is actually far ahead, so we want to pull ahead until we're in line with the edge of the second vehicle. Put it into reverse, put our signal on, that way our reverse lights are on and people know that we're backing up. We turn our steering wheel all the way to the right here and we start backing up, and we're looking over our right shoulder. And we're backing up and we're watching that car, we're looking behind us, and now we're almost straight. Now we look forward to see if we're straight. We have our wheels cranked all the way to the right. Now we bring our steering wheel back 1.5 turns. We know our steering wheel is straight now. And now we back up. And we're not going to back up totally into space because we checked before we pulled up where the Audi was behind us, and the Audi was deep into the space. So we're going to stop here. And actually we're straight forward. We're next to that car really closely, nicely beside that car beside us, and that's how you back up into a stall park. And that's the easiest thing to do. So when you come up, look for your landmarks. If you can back off another car, that's going to be the best. We're going to go find another space, and we're going to drive into that space from the center of the lane of where we're going to pull into the space. So we leave the space, mirror signal shoulder check, 360-degree scan, pull out of the space, and we're going to pull in beside the pickup truck, and we're in the center of the lane. We come up until this car is far away. You can probably see that in the camera from the truck. So we're going to move past that until we're halfway in the space before the truck. So my body lined up halfway. Then we turn our wheels into the space, not all the way, just looking where you want to go, measuring about 3 feet from the truck. Right there, bring the wheels back to straight, and we stop in the space. And that's how you drive into a space. All right, when you're parking on a perpendicular, you want the front corner of the hood in line with the back corner of the vehicle. So your passenger side front corner of the windshield in line with the rear of that vehicle. That driver's side corner on the back of the other vehicle that's parked, that you're going to park beside. And you can see that in the dash cam here, and I'll put an arrow up there for you so you know. And then just right there when they're in line, start turning. You got to go a bit wide and then come back, bring your front end back into the space. 3 feet away from the vehicle. There's nothing behind. There's a car back there, but he's fair distance back. So 1 space, 2 spaces. Can't see the lines, but I'm estimating signal on into reverse. Reverse lights come on. Backing up. We're almost straight. We look forward, we bring the steering wheel 1.5 turns back to straight, and continue to back up. A little bit of adjustment here to be straight off that other vehicle. Look behind us, we're good. 360-degree scan, front of the vehicles are lined up. Parking brake on, and into first gear, into park, stop the vehicle, and you're done. Quick review of reverse stall parking, sometimes called bay parking or perpendicular parking. You will have to do this for the purposes of a road test. It is a required slow speed maneuver to demonstrate that you have due care and control of the vehicle in a confined space. Landmarks and potential hazards and obstructions that you could strike are one and the same thing. Take note of what is around the parking lot. If you can, park off another vehicle. If you can't park off another vehicle, go down to the end of the stalls and park in the end stall. It's going to be easier because you're going to have more landmarks. As well, if you're obsessed with parking between the lines and need to see the lines, go out and buy those little concave mirrors and put them onto your mirror so you can see down onto the pavement without actually looking down at the pavement, because you want to try and find landmarks that will keep your eyesight up. As well, know that the steering wheel turns 1.5 turns in each direction, and just try that out with the vehicle that you are operating. Most of them do turn 1.5 turns in either direction from full turn back to straight, so that way you know when your wheels are going to be straight when you're backing into the stall parking. Before you actually do go out and start stall parking, practice backing up. Back up in a straight line, back up around corners, and then reverse figure eights. When you feel comfortable with the primary controls with the car in reverse, the vehicle in reverse, then start taking on stall parking. Practice stall parking where there aren't other vehicles, and then move to a vehicle and move to tighter and tighter spaces. Finally, when you get comfortable all that, you know where the landmarks are. When you're going to perpendicular parallel park, you need to be about 3 feet from the vehicles that you're going to park beside. Pull up halfway into the second space beyond the one that you're going to park in. Crank your wheel all the way to the left or right, depending on which way you're coming in from. Crank into this parking space. If you're going to angle park, you're going to pull up so you're halfway on the space before the space that you're going to park in. Pick out your 45 and drive to your 45 and then back into your space. Straight line backing is the ideal, but a lot of parking lots are just simply not going to have enough room that are going to allow you to pull up and then back in straight into the space that you're going to back into. So most of the time it's going to be angle parking or perpendicular parking. If you drive into the space, when you come up, you're going to try to be in the center of the lane between the two lanes of parked cars, at the halfway point of the space immediately before the space that you're going to turn into, and then turn in and center the vehicle in the space. And again, all of this takes practice. You're in confined spaces. And the last point about parking into a parking space, the slower you go, the sharper the vehicle turns. And as well, make sure you communicate with other traffic what you're going to do. As soon as you come up to set up, put the vehicle in reverse and put your signal on. When you leave the space, the same thing, put your signal on to indicate to other traffic what you're doing. It is a required skill for the purposes of a road test, putting your signal on when you're leaving the parking space. And again, reversing takes practice, so you're going to have to go out and practice, and make sure you practice this. And again, I will say this again, this is a skill that will transfer to all of your driving. So if you practice the slow speed maneuvers, if you practice reverse stall parking, parallel parking, 3-point turns, that will improve your overall driving. So this is a good skill to get you up to speed faster. Practice your slow speed maneuvers, and that will improve your overall driving. As well, before you back into the space or begin to move the vehicle, make sure you do a 360-degree scan and look behind you, out the back window, check your wheels. And you should be scanning and observing the entire time that the vehicle is moving in reverse, and you should be looking out the back window for every vehicle length that the vehicle moves backwards. Question for my smart drivers: do you have any tips for new drivers learning how to reverse park into a parking space? Leave a comment down in the comment section there. All that helps out the new drivers working towards getting their license. I'm Rick with Smart Drive Test. Thanks very much for watching. If you like what you see here, share, subscribe, leave a comment down in the comment section. As well, hit that thumbs up button. Check out all the videos here on the channel if you're working towards getting your license or starting a career as a truck or bus driver. Lots of great information here. As well, head over to my website. Lots of great information over there, and online courses that you can purchase. Stick around to the end of the video. Links to other videos and to my website. Thanks again for watching. Good luck on your road test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great day. Bye now. We're at about the halfway point. Pulling into the space and driving into the space and stopping. Securing the vehicle with the parking brake. And I forgot to turn my cell phone off, and it's ringing away.